The Galactic Academy of Sciences was not just any school. It was a grand, shining city floating between the stars, built on a vast space station orbiting a golden sun. Students from hundreds of species came there to study advanced sciences, space engineering, and the secrets of energy that powered the galaxy. Every hallway echoed with the sound of many languages, and every class was filled with creatures of strange shapes and colors, all brilliant, all ambitious. Among them was Princess Zira of the Virel Empire. Her race, the Virel, were known for their crystal-like skin, glowing silver eyes, and strong telepathic powers. They ruled several star systems with calm strength, guided by their minds more than their weapons, but their power also made others afraid of them. Whenever Princess Zira entered a classroom, silence followed her. Students lowered their voices, stopped laughing, and even avoided looking directly at her. Her presence carried the quiet authority of royalty and the invisible weight of her telepathic aura. No one dared to sit near her. At the front row of every class, one seat was always empty, the seat beside her. It had been empty since the first day she arrived. Princess Zira noticed it, of course. Every day she would take her seat, open her holographic tablet, and begin writing down notes before the lecture started. And every day she saw that same empty chair beside her. It was a small thing, but it stung more than she wanted to admit. She told herself she did not care. She was Virel. She did not need friends or company. But when the laughter of other students filled the room, when she saw alien classmates whisper and share data screens together, a quiet loneliness touched her heart. Her telepathy made the feeling worse. She could feel their fear, faint ripples of emotion reaching her mind from every direction. Fear, awe, and sometimes dislike. They did not hate her for who she was. They simply did not want to risk angering a princess who could read their thoughts. And so she sat alone. On one bright morning, the Academy prepared for a lecture on quantum energy flow, one of the most complex subjects. Students filled the large hall quickly. The air buzzed with excitement. A new student was joining today. From Earth, someone whispered. A human, really? Another replied. They're so simple. What can a human do here? Humans were a new species in the Galactic Union, barely 1 century into interstellar life. They were admired for their creativity but still looked down upon by many older species. Then, the door slid open with a soft hiss and Eli Ward walked in. He was tall for a human, his hair messy, his uniform slightly wrinkled, and a metal toolkit hung from his shoulder. His brown eyes were sharp and curious, scanning the hall like an engineer checking a machine. The professor nodded at him. Class, this is Eli Ward. He's an exchange student from the Sol system, mechanical and quantum engineer. Some students nodded politely. Others whispered again, unimpressed. Eli didn't seem to care. He looked around for a seat. Every row was full except one, the front row where Princess Zira sat. That seat, the one no one ever touched. Without hesitation, Eli walked down the steps, boots tapping against the metal floor. Whispers rose behind him. The whole hall went silent. Zira turned her head slightly, her silver eyes shining like mirrors as she watched the strange human approach. He reached the empty chair, set down his toolkit, and sat. Just like that, every student froze. Even the professor paused mid-sentence. It was as if the universe itself held its breath. Princess Zira blinked once, surprised. "Do you understand where you are sitting?" she asked softly. Her voice was calm but carried the echo of 1,000 unspoken warnings. Eli looked at her, puzzled. "Yeah," he said, opening his datapad. I needed a seat. This one was empty, her brow furrowed slightly. "No one sits here." "Well," Eli said, smiling lightly, "guess that changes today." The hall was so quiet that even the hum of the projectors sounded loud. A few alien students looked at each other, expecting the human to get scolded or telepathically pushed away. But Zira said nothing more. She simply looked forward and continued her work. As the lecture began, Eli took notes quickly, tapping on his holographic pad. He was clearly focused, ignoring the tension around him. The professor spoke about energy conversion fields and quantum harmonics, projecting equations in glowing blue light across the room. At one point, the projection system flickered. The equations twisted into unreadable symbols and several students groaned in frustration. The professor frowned, adjusting the control panel. Before anyone could react, Eli stood up, opened his toolkit, and stepped to the control station. "It's overheating," he said, pulling out a small scanner. "One of the cooling nodes is misaligned." "Mr. Ward, please," the professor began, but before he could finish, Eli's hands were already moving with confident precision. He adjusted a few wires, pressed a reset chip, and the entire system came back online. The holograms brightened, clearer than before. A quiet wave of surprise passed through the class. Even Princess Zira looked impressed. The professor nodded slowly. "Well, thank you, Mr. Ward. Efficient work." Eli just smiled, returning to his seat. "Old habits," he said. "Can't stand a broken system." After class, as students began leaving, Zira spoke again. "You are very bold, human," she said. "Do you not fear offending me?" Eli glanced at her with an easy grin. "Should I?" Most people would have stepped back in fear at her tone, but Eli spoke as if talking to an equal. There was no mockery in his voice, only honesty. That alone startled her more than any insult could have. "You are sitting beside the heir of the Varel Empire," she said, standing tall. "My presence is not taken lightly." Eli nodded. "And I'm just an engineer. But a seat's a seat. I didn't see your name carved on it." For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Direct, fearless, almost casual. She could sense no arrogance in his thoughts, no hidden motive. Just calm curiosity and a strange kind of respect that came from treating her like a person, not a symbol. She looked away, almost smiling but stopping herself. "You are strange, human." "Yeah," Eli said, picking up his bag. "I get that a lot." When he left the room, the other students stared at Zira in shock. Some whispered that the human would be punished by the Varel embassy. Others said he must have a death wish. But Zira said nothing. Instead, she looked at the empty chair again, the one that for the first time was not so empty. For years, she had sat surrounded by silence. Yet today, the silence felt different, warmer. She realized that the human had not just taken a seat. He had broken an invisible wall that even she had stopped trying to cross. For the first time, the great Princess Zira found herself curious. Who was this fearless human who acted without hesitation, who saw no throne, no title, only a person sitting alone? As the space station rotated slowly above the golden sun, the lonely princess of the Galactic Academy looked toward the door where Eli had walked out, and a small spark of something new began to form inside her heart. The halls of the Galactic Academy were alive with energy the next day. Students rushed from class to lab, their multicolored uniforms brushing against the polished floor. Holographic displays floated over desks, showing complex calculations, star maps, and engineering schematics. And everywhere, whispers followed the name Eli Ward. The human who dared to sit beside Princess Zira had stirred something the Academy had not seen in decades. Zira herself walked through the corridors, her silver eyes scanning her surroundings. She had spent years growing used to isolation. It was safer to keep everyone at a distance. No one understood the weight of her telepathy, the constant rush of thoughts and emotions from everyone around her. Sometimes the simplest conversation felt like a storm, but now she remembered the human's calm, unshakable presence. It was unsettling and oddly refreshing. The next class was a quantum mechanics simulation, one designed to test creativity and problem-solving under pressure. Students were grouped in pairs, assigned a reactor simulation that would collapse if the energy wasn't balanced properly. Princess Zira naturally was placed in her own group, alone as usual. But before the instructor could speak, Eli raised his hand. "Professor, may I work with the princess?" he asked. The room went silent. Some students gasped. Others whispered, "Is he crazy?" The professor, a tall humanoid with 3 eyes, raised a brow. "You may if the princess agrees," the professor said. Zira froze. No one had ever asked her if they could join her. People had either avoided her or been sent away by subtle telepathic warnings. She looked at Eli, studying him carefully. His eyes held no fear, no arrogance, only curiosity and focus. "Very well," she said finally, her voice calm but tinged with suspicion. "You may sit beside me." Sitting beside Zira was different from any other student. Eli quickly noticed the strange ripple in the air around her, the quiet energy that hinted at telepathy. But instead of feeling fear or intimidation, he treated it like any other problem he could solve. He opened his pad, connected it to the simulation, and smiled. "Let's see what's going wrong," he said. The reactor simulation flickered, energy spikes rising uncontrollably. Zira's hands moved rapidly over her controls, but the system resisted her. Normally, her telepathic focus could manage these complex patterns, but the emotional weight of other students in the room made her calculations falter. Eli leaned closer, watching her interface. "You're thinking too much," he said simply. "Simplify it. Ignore the extra noise. Focus on the flow of energy, not everything else." Zira hesitated, then tried his method. She adjusted a few parameters, following his calm instructions. The simulation began to stabilize. "Good," Eli said, pointing at a section of the hologram. "Now balance this node with this frequency. That should fix the resonance." The simulation hummed. Energy levels aligned perfectly. The entire classroom watched in awe as the unstable reactor stabilized in a way even the instructors had not anticipated. After class, some students tried to corner Zira in the hall, asking what she thought of the human. They were curious but cautious, afraid of displeasing her. Zira walked past them silently, her eyes still on Eli, who was adjusting his tools at the edge of the corridor. "You're different," she said as they walked together. Eli shrugged. "Different how?" "Most humans would never speak to me like that," she said, her voice quiet. "They fear me or they flatter me. You just listen," he smiled. "Listening is easier than pretending to be scared or polite. Besides, you're a person, not a title." Zira blinked. That simple statement carried more weight than centuries of formal etiquette. She wanted to reply, but words failed her. Humans spoke directly, without the layers of meaning her own species expected. Over the next few weeks, the unlikely pair began to work together on small projects. Eli was fascinated by Varel technology, especially their ability to manipulate energy fields with thought. He learned quickly, asking questions without fear. Zira, for the first time, felt understood. She could show her ideas, her calculations, without worrying about judgment or fear. One evening, in a quiet lab lit only by soft blue hololights, Eli leaned over a strange energy core. "If we adjust the harmonic frequencies here," he said, tapping his pad, "we could reduce the energy loss by half." Zira frowned slightly. "That is impossible. My simulations show instability." "Let's try it anyway," Eli said with a grin. "Worst case, we learn something new." Together they adjusted the parameters. The core hummed, shifted, and then stabilized perfectly. The small success felt electric. Zira laughed, a pure musical sound she had not realized she had kept hidden. "See?" Eli said, smiling. "Sometimes the impossible just needs someone willing to try." Word spread fast. Other students whispered about the human and the princess working together, solving problems no one else could. Some were impressed. Others were wary. They had not yet realized that humans had something unique. Creativity without fear, determination without arrogance. Even professors began to notice. During one lecture on wormhole mechanics, a VREL student struggled to understand a complex energy equation. Eli stepped forward calmly, explaining it in simple terms that made sense to everyone, even those unfamiliar with human logic. Zira watched silently, a small smile tugging at her lips. She had never expected humans to see the world this way. Practical, flexible, fearless in thought. And it was oddly comforting. But their growing friendship did not go unnoticed by everyone. In the shadows of the academy, a few students and instructors whispered to each other, clearly annoyed. Humans were not supposed to be equals, much less partners with royalty. Some saw it as a threat. One day, as Zira and Eli walked to the cafeteria, a senior virile student confronted them. His crystalline eyes glinted. "Princess, you are dishonoring your position by working so closely with a human," he said. Zira's silver gaze met his. "I work with the best engineer I can find," she said, her voice calm but firm. "His species matters little compared to his mind." Eli stepped slightly forward, his hands open and relaxed. "We're just trying to solve problems, not break traditions," he said quietly. The VRL student narrowed his eyes but said nothing more. As he walked away, Zira realized something. Eli's presence not only gave her comfort but courage. She felt stronger, more capable even in the face of doubt and whispers. Evenings became their favorite time. While other students rested or studied alone, Eli and Zira stayed in the lab, experimenting with new designs. Eli brought human tools and Zira brought viral knowledge. Together, they began working on a hybrid energy core, a design that no single species had achieved before. It was during these quiet moments that Zira began to trust him. She let her guard down, sharing small memories of her childhood, stories of her early training as a virile telepath, and the pressures of royalty. She felt free to speak honestly, without the fear of judgment. Eli listened, nodding, asking questions, always curious, always respectful. In return, he shared his life on Earth, the challenges of growing up on a small planet, the first time he built a starship engine, the thrill of fixing broken machines that others thought impossible. For the first time, Zira realized that perhaps humans were more than simple creatures. Their courage, their persistence, and their willingness to face unknowns made them remarkable. Dangerous in their own quiet way, but inspiring too. By the end of the month, the energy core prototype was almost complete. The lab hummed with activity every night, blue and green lights flickering across their faces. Zira no longer feared sitting beside him. She looked forward to it. And Eli, for his part, treated the princess not as royalty but as a partner, a collaborator, and a friend. Something subtle had begun to change in the academy as well. Other students, seeing the results of their teamwork, began to approach Zira cautiously, not out of fear but out of curiosity. Even the professors began to ask her opinion on technical problems they would normally solve themselves. The presence of a human engineer beside a virile princess was slowly reshaping expectations. And while whispers of jealousy and doubt lingered in the shadows, one truth became clear. Eli Ward had done more than sit beside a princess. He had begun to bridge the gap between species, showing the galaxy that courage, curiosity, and respect were more important than fear or tradition. For Princess Zira, the empty seat was no longer a symbol of isolation. It was now the place where something extraordinary had begun, the beginning of a partnership that could change the course of her life, and perhaps, the galaxy. The Academy's labs had grown quieter in recent weeks, not because the students were less busy, but because everyone had begun to watch Eli Ward and Princess Zira. Their teamwork on the hybrid energy core drew admiration, curiosity, and unease in equal measure. Yet, the moments of quiet were deceptive. Zira's mind, though calm beside Eli, still carried the weight of centuries of virile history and expectation. Though she was young by her species' standards, she had already experienced much that others could not imagine. One evening, as the twin moons of the nearby star system glimmered through the lab's transparent dome, Zira quietly spoke to Eli. "You may not understand my people," she said softly. "It is not fear you sense from others, it is respect, yes, but also a warning. Telepathy is not a gift you can take lightly." Eli leaned on the edge of the table, his brow furrowed in thought. "I'm not here to compete. I'm here to learn and to help. If telepathy is a problem, I'll deal with it the way I deal with broken engines, step by step, carefully." Zira studied him. No one had ever addressed her like that before. Most either flattered her or avoided her altogether. He did not fear her. He did not idolize her. He simply treated her as a partner, someone capable and human. The realization was unsettling and yet comforting. "I need to tell you something," Zira said, almost hesitating. "About why I am always alone?" Eli straightened. "I'm listening." She took a deep breath. "Our telepathy is a gift, but it is also a curse. From birth, I could feel the thoughts and emotions of everyone around me. Every whisper, every fear, every secret, and it all reaches me like a tide I cannot stop. It can drive others mad. And it nearly drove me mad." Eli listened without interrupting. He did not flinch. He did not make a joke. He simply nodded, allowing her to speak. "I have learned to shield myself, to push others' thoughts away. But even then I am lonely. I cannot share my true self without risking harm. or showing weakness. Her silver eyes flicked toward him, studying his reaction. Eli's expression remained calm. So you hide. But why trust me? Zira hesitated, then said quietly, Because you do not hide from me. You see me as I am, not as what I am expected to be. The words lingered between them. Zira felt a strange warmth in her chest, a sensation she had not experienced in years. Trust was dangerous for a virile, but with Eli it felt natural. Their work on the hybrid energy core progressed rapidly. It was a project that could combine human engineering and virile energy manipulation in ways no one had tried before. The core hummed softly in the lab, its light reflecting in their eyes as they adjusted parameters, tested resonance patterns, and exchanged ideas. Eli approached the energy core, examining the complex interface. If we align the human-designed stabilizers with your virile resonance waves, we might reduce energy loss by 30%, he said. Zira tilted her head, considering. It is risky. If the harmonics are misaligned, the core could become unstable. Eli shrugged. Everything is risky until someone tries. If we fail, we learn. If we succeed, we make history. She almost laughed at his human simplicity. The fear of failure, so ingrained in her upbringing, suddenly felt lighter in his presence. Together they adjusted the energy core, and this time it hummed with perfect stability. For Zira, the lab no longer felt like a place of isolation. It felt alive, vibrant, a place where she could be herself without pretense, without masks, but not everyone approved. In the shadowy corners of the academy, whispers grew louder. Some students murmured about the human who dared sit beside a princess. Others questioned the wisdom of combining human and virile technology. Among the most vocal was Lord Thalon, a senior virile instructor known for his strict adherence to tradition and his suspicion of humans. One afternoon, he appeared at their lab door, his crystalline skin glinting under the lab lights. Princess Zira, he said coldly, you continue to associate with a human. Do you understand the danger? This is not a partnership. It is a scandal waiting to happen. Zira's eyes narrowed slightly. We are working on a scientific project, Lord Thalon. Our results speak for themselves. Results do not excuse behavior, Thalon replied. You risk your reputation, your position, and the integrity of the academy. Eli stepped forward, his hands relaxed but his gaze steady. We are following proper procedure. Our work is safe and approved. We are not breaking rules. We are advancing knowledge. Thalon's eyes flickered toward him, sensing the human's unyielding determination. Even the princess had warned him. Humans were reckless, unpredictable. Yet there was a quality in Eli's mind that was hard to dismiss. Persistence, clarity, and courage. You will learn that some things are beyond your understanding, Thalon said, his tone sharp, and left the lab with a wave of authority. Zira watched him go, then looked at Eli. You are brave. Perhaps more than you realize, he shrugged. I just do what needs to be done. Fear doesn't fix broken things. In the following days, the academy became tense. Some students avoided the lab entirely. Others tried to observe their work secretly, hoping to find flaws or mistakes. But no one could stop their progress. The hybrid energy core became the symbol of their combined strengths. Human creativity and determination paired with virile precision and telepathy. Zira began to see a new side of herself emerge. With Eli, she could focus without distraction, share ideas without fear, and even laugh. She discovered that humans had a unique way of thinking, unrestrained, adaptable, and sometimes dangerously brilliant. Eli, in turn, admired Zira more than he could explain. He had seen skilled leaders, engineers, and diplomats, but none carried such responsibility while remaining so calm and composed under pressure. He noticed her vulnerability, her loneliness, and still, he treated her as a peer, someone to collaborate with, not a distant royal. It was a rare kind of respect, one that even centuries of virile training could not teach. One evening, after finishing another round of tests on the energy core, Zira paused and spoke. Eli, I have never allowed anyone this close before. Not even my own tutors or advisors. You make it easy to trust. Eli leaned back, wiping his hands on a cloth. Trust is earned, princess, and I don't expect blind faith. I just try to do the right thing. She studied him for a long moment. Perhaps humans are not as fragile as our records suggest. Perhaps your kind has something we cannot teach. Courage without arrogance, persistence without fear. Eli smiled. We call it stubbornness, he said lightly. Sierra allowed herself a small laugh. The sound echoed softly through the lab, warm and genuine. For the first time, she felt free from the invisible walls that her telepathy had built around her heart. But not all challenges came from jealousy or tradition. One day, as they tested a new component of the energy core, a sudden surge of unstable energy caused the core to vibrate violently. Sparks flew and warning lights flashed red. Eli reacted instantly, analyzing the problem. Someone tampered with the frequency stabilizers, he exclaimed. Sierra's eyes widened. Sabotage here? Eli nodded. It's subtle. Someone tried to make it look like a malfunction. But I can fix it, if we work together. Their hands moved in unison, adjusting nodes, recalibrating resonance waves, and combining human and Virel logic. Sweat dripped from Eli's brow as he worked, but he never panicked. Sierra, feeling the surge of danger, focused her telepathic energy, guiding his actions silently. For the first time, their minds worked together as one. The room shook with the energy of the core, but step by step they stabilized it. When the last wave of energy settled, the core hummed softly, perfectly balanced. The silence afterward was heavy. They had prevented disaster, but the incident was a warning. Their enemies were closer than they had realized. Sierra looked at Eli, her silver eyes reflecting the soft glow of the lab. You are remarkable, she said quietly. He smiled, wiping soot from his hands. You're not so bad yourself, Princess. And in that moment, the loneliness that had haunted her for so long began to fade. Together, they had faced danger, distrust, and tradition, and they had succeeded. For Sierra, the human beside her was no longer. The sun of the nearby star glinted against the windows of the Galactic Council chamber, bathing the room in golden light. Delegates from dozens of species filled the enormous hall. Some sat silently observing. Others whispered quietly, eyes flicking toward the front row, where the accused would soon stand. Princess Sierra of the Virel Empire and Eli Ward, the human engineer who dared sit beside her, were about to face the council for their work on the hybrid energy core. The charge was serious: unauthorized technology exchange and disrespecting royal protocol. For Sierra, failure could mean disgrace or exile. For Eli, it could mean expulsion or permanent ban from the academy. The stakes were higher than anything they had faced so far. The chamber was massive, circular, and built from a mix of gleaming metals and translucent crystal. Holographic displays floated above each delegate, showing the evidence of the case: blueprints, lab recordings, and security logs of the academy. Lord Thalen, the Virel instructor who had warned Sierra, now stood among the council, his crystalline eyes sharp. He had presented the proof that a human was interfering with Virel technology, claiming it was dangerous and reckless. Sierra and Eli walked into the chamber calmly, their expressions controlled. Even as whispers swept across the room, they did not falter. Their confidence was quiet, steady, the kind of confidence that came from knowing they had done nothing wrong. The first to speak was a stern Marnian delegate. Princess Sierra, she said, her voice echoing across the chamber. How do you respond to claims that you allowed unauthorized collaboration with a human, a species not yet fully trusted by the Union? Sierra's silver eyes met the delegate's gaze. I respond with facts, she said clearly. All work with Mr. Ward followed Academy protocols. We conducted experiments under supervision, documented every step, and never exceeded safety limits. Our work improved the hybrid energy core and produced results no one else could achieve. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates nodded. Others looked skeptical. Eli stepped forward. I am here to confirm everything the princess says. Every calculation, every adjustment, every design decision was done transparently. My goal was not to break rules, but to solve problems. He paused, letting the simplicity of his words sink in. We work together because that is how discovery happens. Fear, tradition, or species rank cannot prevent knowledge from advancing. Not everyone was convinced. Lord Thalen rose, his crystalline hands gripping his lectern. You are naive, Princess. This human could have destroyed the Academy systems. He could have caused a catastrophe. Do you understand the danger of your actions? Sierra remained calm. Yes, I understand the danger. That is why we tested carefully, monitored constantly, and prepared safety protocols. We did not act recklessly, Eli added. And the sabotage proves it. Someone wanted to make it look like we failed. It was not our recklessness, but someone else's malice that created danger, and we corrected it. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The sabotage introduced a new layer of complexity. Someone inside the academy was attempting to undermine them. The head delegate, an elder from the Oreni species, leaned forward. "If your work is genuine, demonstrate it. Show the chamber the core and its stability." Zyra nodded. "We are prepared." She and Eli followed the council to a secure observation lab, where the prototype hybrid energy core had been installed. The core glowed softly, a mix of human engineering and viral energy resonance. Holographic displays floated around it, projecting real-time data of energy flow, stability, and efficiency. Delegates leaned closer, eyes widening as the numbers revealed a performance beyond expectation. "See?" Eli said quietly to Zyra. "This is what we made together." Zyra allowed herself a small smile. "It is more than numbers. It is proof of cooperation between species, between ideas." Suddenly alarms blared. Warning lights flashed red. A surge of unstable energy shot through the core. Delegates gasped. Panic rippled across the room. "Sabotage!" Eli shouted, rushing to the control panel. Sparks flew as he worked to isolate the faulty node. The council's security personnel stepped back, uncertain what to do. Zyra focused, her telepathy stretching into the core itself, sensing the energy patterns like a living entity. "Eli, follow my lead. Trust me," she said. For the first time, their minds synchronized. Eli's human logic and hands-on engineering merged with Zyra's precise telepathic guidance. He adjusted stabilizers, recalibrated harmonics, and rerouted energy flows as she guided him. The core vibrated violently, threatening to explode. Delegates ducked and held their breath. Seconds stretched into what felt like hours. Then, with a final adjustment, the energy settled. The core hummed smoothly, glowing brighter than before. The room was silent, awestruck. The council members stared at the two of them. Alive, unharmed, victorious. The head delegate rose slowly. This is remarkable," she said. "You have stabilized the core under extreme conditions. Not only that, but your work demonstrates the potential for cross-species collaboration at the highest level." Lord Thalen's eyes narrowed, but even he could not deny the outcome. He sat down, his pride wounded but his argument defeated. Zyra and Eli stepped back from the core, their breathing steady but hearts racing from the intensity of the event. The council chamber filled with murmurs of admiration and respect. "This human," one delegate said quietly, "may be reckless, but his determination is extraordinary. And the princess," another added, "has chosen wisely in trusting him." After the demonstration, the council debated. Witnesses were called. Evidence was reviewed. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Zyra and Eli had acted within rules, followed protocols, and advanced knowledge in a way no single species could have done alone. The verdict was announced. Acquittal with commendation. Applause filled the chamber, though it was measured. Delegates were not known for outward displays of emotion. Still, the energy in the room was electric. Zyra and Eli exchanged a quiet glance. Relief, pride, and something warmer, the recognition of what they had accomplished together, passed between them. As they left the chamber, Eli turned to her. "See? Nothing can stop us when we work together." Zyra smiled, silver eyes glinting. "You are not wrong. Humans, you have a strange kind of courage," he grinned. "I call it stubbornness." "Works for me." They walked through the corridors where students peeked from behind doors, whispering in awe. The story of the human who sat beside the princess and saved the academy spread quickly. For Zyra, the victory was more than personal. She had learned to trust, to collaborate, and to see the value in someone different from herself. And for Eli, it was proof that humans could not only survive among the galaxy's elite, but thrive by being themselves. That evening, in the lab, they returned to the hybrid energy core. It glowed warmly, stable and perfect. Eli set down his toolkit, wiping his hands. "Do you realize what this means?" he asked. "We've built the first successful human viral hybrid energy core. This is history." Zyra's silver eyes softened. "It is more than history. The Galactic Academy of Sciences had never seen a day like this." The corridors buzzed with anticipation. Students from countless species moving quickly to witness the launch of the multi-species research vessel, a project inspired by the extraordinary work of Princess Zyra and Eli Ward. The vessel, named Unity Spark, represented more than technology. It was a symbol, that cooperation between species was not just possible but essential to the future of the galaxy. And at the helm of this project would be the princess and the human engineer, two beings who had shattered expectations, crossed barriers, and proven that courage, curiosity, and determination could overcome fear and tradition. Preparations for the launch were intense. The ship was enormous, its hull gleaming under the light of the orbiting star. Docking bays were filled with specialists, engineers, and scientists, all contributing their knowledge. Holographic displays projected schematics of engines, energy cores, and navigation systems. Eli walked through the corridors, toolkit in hand, checking the final systems. Every adjustment was precise, each calculation verified multiple times. He did not need applause or recognition. He worked because he loved solving problems. But even he felt the weight of the moment. Zira approached, her silver eyes calm but bright. She wore the ceremonial uniform of her empire, but there was something different about her posture today. She did not carry the heavy loneliness of her past. Instead, she moved with quiet confidence, the kind that came from knowing she had a trusted partner at her side. "You ready?" Eli asked, adjusting a panel on the ship's energy core. Zira nodded. "As ready as we'll ever be. It is time to show the galaxy what we can do." They moved to the bridge together, taking the seats side by side. The front row had never felt so significant. The seat that had once been empty beside Zira was now shared by the human who had dared to sit without fear. Together they commanded the ship, symbols of trust and collaboration. The launch sequence began. Engines hummed, energy cores aligned, and the ship's systems synchronized. Lights on the bridge flickered as the vessel powered up, responding to the commands of its co-leaders. "Engage," Zira said, her voice steady. Eli pressed the activation keys. The ship shuddered gently, then lifted off the docking bay, gliding smoothly into open space. Cameras captured the reaction of the crowd below, cheers, awe, and whispers of admiration. "Look at that," Eli said, grinning. "We did it." Zira smiled, though her thoughts were focused on the mission. "It is more than a launch," she said softly. "It is proof that humans and Virel and perhaps all species can work together. Nothing is impossible when we trust each other." As the vessel entered the orbital route, a sudden alert flashed on the bridge. A minor fluctuation in the energy core had been detected. Eli leaned over the console, analyzing the data. "It's minor, but it's close to resonance frequency. Could be debris or interference." Zira focused her telepathy on the energy flow, sensing the patterns like a living network. "It is stable, no threat. Adjustments will suffice." Together, their minds and skills worked in harmony. Eli's hands moved quickly, making micro-adjustments. Zira guided him silently, her telepathic insight smoothing the flow of energy. The fluctuation passed, leaving the system stable. "Good work," Zira said quietly. "You too," Eli replied. "Couldn't have done it without you." For a moment, the ship was quiet, serene, a perfect balance of human ingenuity and Virel precision. Word of the successful launch spread across the galaxy. News networks, space stations, and interstellar governments reported on Unity's spark and its leaders. Humans and Virel alike were proud. Across the galaxy, species who had never worked closely before now began to see the possibility of collaboration, inspired by the courage and partnership of the princess and the engineer. Back at the academy, students who had once whispered and judged now sought to learn from them. Alien nobles and instructors approached respectfully, asking questions and offering congratulations. Even Lord Thalen, who had once warned against their partnership, now observed quietly, realizing that the results could not be denied. Weeks later, aboard Unity's Spark, the crew began their first mission, exploring a newly discovered sector near a cluster of unstable stars. Their task was to test new energy technologies, study cosmic phenomena, and demonstrate the advantages of multi-species collaboration in a real-world setting. The bridge was alive with activity. Engineers monitored energy cores, scientists recorded data, and navigators charted new paths. But in the midst of it all, Zira and Eli sat side by side, the steady center of the ship. "Do you ever think about how it started?" Zira asked quietly. Eli raised an eyebrow. "The first day I sat beside you in class?" She smiled faintly. "Yes, the empty seat. I never thought anyone would sit there without fear." "I didn't see the point in waiting," Eli said simply. "Seats are for sitting. And I was curious, You seemed lonely. Sarah looked at him, eyes reflecting the starlight outside. I was, and you changed that. More than you know, he shrugged. I just did what any engineer would do, fix the problem in front of me. Even if the problem is a princess? She asked, teasing lightly. Eli grinned. Especially if the problem is a princess. As the ship glided past a bright star, they reached a region of unstable energy fields. The sensors indicated anomalies, and the crew prepared for analysis. This is where humans and Varel working together matters most, Zira said. Eli nodded. We'll handle it. Together they approached the field. Zira's telepathy detected fluctuations invisible to instruments, while Eli's engineering mind calculated safe trajectories, stabilizing their energy shields in real time. The ship moved smoothly through the chaos, and the crew cheered as the readings stabilized. Another demonstration of what could be achieved when species trusted and learned from each other. Months passed. The crew of Unity Spark explored new worlds, collected data, and solved problems that had stumped the galaxy for centuries. News of their successes spread quickly, inspiring cooperation between species who had never dared to work together. Zira and Eli remained at the helm, always side by side, their partnership unshakable. Their friendship had grown into a deep bond, respect, trust, and quiet admiration filling the space between them. One evening, after a long day of research, Zira looked at the empty space outside the bridge, stars stretching infinitely across the darkness. I never thought a human could feel like home, she said softly. Eli glanced at her, smiling. I didn't think a princess could feel like family. And in that moment, they realized something simple but profound. The seat beside her would never be empty again. Back on the academy, stories of their first encounter became legend. Students spoke of the human who sat beside the princess without fear, of the energy core they created together,